I hope so. I know they will be excited. They're always excited to play against great teams, but that's no guarantee that we're going to play like we did against the Spurs or Cleveland.
Let's go to the college basketball scoreboard right now. Number 1, Oklahoma down 6 at halftime to Kansas State, so the Sooners in trouble. Number 24, Dayton up 47-31 over George Mason at halftime. Arizona in Pac-12 action up 77-72, and now that has gone final against the University of Washington. Earlier today, number 3, Villanova 72, number 11, Providence 60. Xavier 90-82 over Marquette, the number 6 Musketeers. Kansas 75, TCU 56. Michigan State over state rival Michigan in a beatdown 89-73, and number 19 Louisville 79, Boston College 47. Dave Smith, NBCSports.com.
This is KCAA.
Hi, Pat Matthews again. I want to talk to you about selling online. And when I say selling, I'm talking about your home, your car, and even buying a house or a new set of wheels. There's a new kid in town, and that's buysellmakeoffer.com. The revolution has already begun, and I invite you to be a part of it. You see, get in on the ground floor because buysellmakeoffer.com never charges item fees. Can you imagine what the other guys might charge you for selling a car on their site, let alone a house? Well, buysellmakeoffer.com doesn't do that. And you can use Skype and YouTube videos to sell your products, big or small. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com and set up your account. For as little as $7.95 per month, you can sell up to 50 items, and they'll give you the first 30 days free just to try it out. Remember, no per-item fees. Join the revolution today. BuySellMakeOffer.com. And tell them Pat Matthews sent you.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan inviting you to talk sports with the Open Season Crew Thursdays at 3 o'clock right here on KCAA.
Like to spend a few days in another world? Then write this down. Golden Bear Cottages, Big Bear Lake. Now, listen, this is not some corporate-owned operation. It's family-owned and operated by some real nice people. Unique? Oh, you bet. Golden Bear Cottages features 28 one-of-a-kind cabins on a 5-acre historic site. Great for families, couples, and groups. And cabins are available with 1 to 7 bedrooms. Golden Bear Cottages is just a stone's throw from Big Bear Lake and super close to 3 great ski areas. Now, I could go on all day about Golden Bear Cottages in Big Bear, but to see everything, just go to goldenbear.net. Again, goldenbear.net. Golden Bear Cottages in Big Bear. Clean, comfortable, and affordable. Check them out. goldenbear.net.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Dave Merce. This afternoon, clouds and some sunshine to come. The high 75. For your evening, clear, dry, light winds, low 50. By tomorrow, we get some sunshine Sunday to end the weekend. Warming up on those northwest breezes, the high at 82. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. The stations that leave no listener behind.
E-Digits. Lock them in for more information, recreation, and guaranteed fun. KCAA.
I know a place. Ain't nobody crying. Ain't nobody worried. No. Ain't no smiling faces. No, no. Lying to the races. Help me. Come on.
Good of you to listen in. It's also smart of you to listen in between 4 and 5 on Saturday afternoons. Consider this, you could take a CPR class right now instead of listening to this program, in which case you might someday, if the stars and the cosmos are in the right position, you might save a life. Now CPR almost never works, but it could. On another day, we'll discuss CPR and why its life-saving successes are invariably a dismal failure. Or you could take the Paramedic Heretic Saturday afternoon Wise Up About Healthcare class and quite possibly save lives many times over, yours and your loved ones. If you've heard us before, we thank you for coming back. If this is your first visit, we suggest you pour a glass of something to calm your nerves, fasten your seatbelt. We want to remind you that unlike so many other stations, Kcaa Radio offers a pretty cool asset called podcasts, which means you can tune into this show and indeed some pretty terrific other shows on Kcaa at any time, day or night. We don't suggest you listen to the Paramedic Heretic right before bedtime. This program has been known to interrupt a good night's sleep in the medically naive. We are, after all, your weekly dose of reality therapy, and sometimes reality bites. What we have in our modern-day America is a head-jolting paradox. The process of helping people get well, hell, it's killing good folks by the thousands. Does that fact resonate with you at all? Now, you're bright enough to be listening to us, so you're in the right frame of mind, but think of the millions who have no idea just how appallingly wicked modern medicine has become. Think about friends and family who look to healthcare as heaven-sent blessings and are disappointed time after time. Now, before we go any further, here's a reminder. In the cases we mentioned on the program, we adhere to the following protocol. As we've said before, names of the medical miscreants are not used if the facts of the case were doubtful at the time we went to the air of the show. Names are also not used if the incident cannot be verified by at least 3 solid reporting sources. In each case where names are included, we provide the quickest possible route for you to verify the who, what, when, where of the story. And that route is the medical miscreant website. You might want to jot that down. If you happen to want more detail on the cases we discussed, just visit the Paramedic Heretic's Medical Miscreant website. At the end of each case, we mention at least one reference, usually the FBI, sometimes the National Criminal Index, other times the Department of Justice, maybe the State Attorney General, maybe local law enforcement press releases. We say again, when it comes to this program, the individuals themselves are not the story. The narrative here is to constantly underscore the pervasiveness of misbehavior among those we hold in highest esteem. The purpose here is to educate you to the bug-eyed amount of wacko antics going on so you will, Lord willing, become a highly healthy skeptic anytime you find yourself in the presence of a life form called doctor. After all, wearing a lab coat with a stethoscope, an alien from another planet might look as normal as anybody else. So we're a different kind of radio program. With a program not hosted by a healthcare cheerleader or a pop the pill because the TV told me to, wacko. If you prefer a steady diet of fairy tales to help get you through your day, Lord knows such programs are easy to find. In fact, modern healthcare juggernaut churns out infomercials by the ton, thousands and thousands of ads each day, dangling the counterfeit path to good health, if only you'll just close your mind, dumb down your brain, and open your wallet. This is a show, as we said before, on Americans' airwaves that reveal witches and warlocks and devils and demons. We reveal the sorcerers and the scoundrels and the rascals and the charlatans and the picaroons, all of whom walk the hall of healthcare. Do you think they should be there? We don't. We tell you what doctors and nurses and medics could tell you, and what they ought to tell you, but they don't. And that's who the scallywags really are. We're the program that reveals how modern medicine has swerved so far off the path called normal that it hides its centers and plays peekaboo with its criminals. And they get away with this every single day of every single week. Why? Because as a society, collectively, we are stupid enough to let them. Now we'd like to give a shout out to some paramedics and EMTs scattered across the Inland Empire, up in the high desert, mountain communities, Coachella Valley. We worked on all these locations. There are rescue teams right now listening at Redlands Fire across San Bernardino. We got medics in Loma Linda and Grand Terrace and Rialto, Colton, Palm Springs, Indio, from Riverside and beyond. We thank nurses and physicians and techs listening at workstations in Desert Hospital and Eisenhower, at JFK and Indio, at Redlands Community, at Loma Linda, at Riverside Community, and Arrowhead Regional 2. Stay safe out there, and we appreciate you listening. These are the people that make our job easy. They forward stories to share with our non-medical audience, those anxious to know what's really going on in the freaky-deaky netherworld called medicine, and we aim to please. Like we said last week, here's our little challenge to you. There are 168 hours in a week. That means you have 168 hours until next Saturday, next showtime. Between now and then, we want you to spin the dial, punch in any podcast you like anywhere in the world. Find another program that covers the subjects we cover. Find a radio show, for God's sakes, that tells you exactly whose medicines boogeymen and boogie women are. Now, boogie women is entirely different than women who boogie. That's a separate issue. When you find that program, you call us here at KCAA. Here's the number, 1-888-909-1050. You tell us who that other program is. You leave us your contact email. We'll check them out. If that program is anything like yours, we'll gleefully buy you a steak at dinner. We hold right here in our prehensile Paramedic paw a gift card for dinner at Outback Steakhouse. Not just any gift card, it's a $50 gift card. And you can get a pretty good steak for $50. So go ahead, make our day. Are you beginning to sense why a medical school trained paramedic might become a heretic? If so, we're wiggling our gingamundies. We're making headway. We're moving mountains here. You're evolving into a healthy skeptic, and that just might keep you alive. So you ponder these opening thoughts, and we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll give you some insight into one of the more preposterous medical cases that healthcare could have told you about while it was happening, but they didn't. Instead, they chose to dangle the spooky, oh my God, you might get the flu ghost. Or sometimes the, oh my God, you might get the measles ghost. Or whatever in hell the latest virus is that they want you to spend money on. Then say boo, as they like to do. It's very important to the medical world's movers and shakers that you don't realize what's really going on. Trust us, you're going to want to know this stuff. You're listening to the Inland Empire's KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Don't go away, we're just getting fired up.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay.
Every Thursday night at 7 on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050.
Are you particular about the vitamins and supplements you take? Have you found that the big chain stores simply don't have what you need? Then you should know about the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills. You'll find rock-bottom prices on gourmet, top-quality vitamins and mineral supplements at the Vitamin Center. Get 30% off on all supplements and homeopathic products. All, not just selected merchandise. In addition, you'll find 30% off on all cosmetics, soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, makeup, hair coloring, and lip gloss. And all tea products are discounted 20%. Why go anywhere else? See for yourself at the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills, or check out the savings and place your order online. VitaminCenterAgoraHills.com. Start saving by getting what you need from the Vitamin Center of Agora Hills. And tell a friend that the Vitamin Center ships nationwide. Call 818-707-0005. That's 818-707-0005. The Vitamin Center of Agora Hills.
Sometimes I get to thinking there's just not enough love and romance left in our lives today. And that's why I like to reminisce and to relive that first feeling of love and do it all over again.
Did you boogie with your baby in the back row of the movie show?
The Wolfman's back all the way on KCAA at midnight, Friday and Saturday nights, coming in March. Don't miss the Wolfman on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
KCAA is your CNBC News affiliate. We're the station that gets down to business.
Welcome back. It's 15 minutes after the hour. You're listening to segment 2 of the Paramedic Heretic. As you probably have guessed by now, this show is not hosted by a right-wing hooligan or a left coast blowiator. We don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal, a conservative, or a liquid libertarian. We happen to be a Whig. Can't wait for them to get back into power. We have no preference whatsoever that you might be straight or crooked, gleeful or cranky, highly satisfied or merely confused. It matters not a whit to us if you either agree with the direction of this nation's health care or whether you grind your teeth at the very thought of the recent changes. On this show, none of that matters. You can listen to Dr. Phil for your relationship tune-ups. You can listen to Dr. Oz for your squeaky parts, Dr. Drew for sex, Dr. Laura for an argument. You can listen to the Thompson twins, Dr. for 1980s rock and roll nostalgia. But if you're of a mindset to want to know the stranger facets of health care, just who you might not want to see listed in your health plan booklet, you best tune in right here, because frankly, as far as we know, as of January 2016, there is simply no one else on radio to let you in on healthcare's nasty little secrets. Here's one secret. How many words do you suppose were uttered during the last 5 years in the name of healthcare reform? 1 trillion? Maybe more. Now ask yourself this. How often did you happen to hear any discussion regarding the National Practitioner Data Bank? Ever heard of that organization? Well, if you haven't, you're not alone. The National Practitioner Data Bank, as they call themselves, are about as well known as dark matter. They're about as chatty as a church full of Trappist monks. The NPDB is, for all intents and purposes, the CIA of medicine, but without the cool James Bond weapons. Their job, these sneaky little people, is to collect and organize, retain, and carefully disseminate information on misbehaving doctors. Sounds like a job we'd like. Their job is to hide it all from you. How many miscreants do they have on file? Well, you're not supposed to know. What you're supposed to do is pay their salaries with your tax money. Don't ask pesky questions about which dodgy doctors you should avoid, lest they, start killing your family members. That sounds fair, right? We can tell you that as of this time last year, 2015, the National Practitioner Data Bank had accumulated 252,000 physician names since 1985. That's quite a collection in 30 years, wouldn't you say? Is your doctor on the list? Sorry, Bubba. You don't get to know. Pay your bills. Take your chances. Keep your mouth shut. Don't ask questions. One of the more surprising things about this agency is that it is one of the largest clubs in America, but it is not particularly easy to become a member. First of all, you have to be a doctor. Second of all, in most cases, you have to have done something pretty seriously wrong. And third, your boss has to report it. And just for the record, doctor bosses almost never do. 2,400 doctors were convicted last year. The year 2014 was the last year we counted. Very, very few were ever reported by their employers. The employers simply ignore the law. Of the 5,600 public hospitals, more than half have never reported any of their bad doctors, which is absolutely fascinating when one considers that the National Institute of Health reports that nearly every hospital has at least one or two, and likely a number, of what is now legally referred to as, quote, disruptive physicians. So what exactly is their program about? Our job here is pretty simple and it only has 3 moving parts. We warn you who the lab coat lunatics really are. We report you exactly what they've done. We entertain you a little along the way. What gives us the right to do this, you might ask? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Your host for this program graduated from UCSD, San Diego, La Jolla School of Medicine's special program in emergency field medicine 30-plus years ago. What that means is that over more than 3 decades, we've researched more than 20,000 cases of doctor shenanigans, and 100 or more of those were witnessed by us personally, including the case that we plan to end the show with today in our final segment. Now, not everything is criminal. Thank God, some of it is downright hysterical. And that's terrific, because this subject needs all the comedy we can gather. Now, some of you may wonder how our books, such as America's Dumbest Doctors, came to be. It really isn't that long a tale. For years we waited patiently for somebody of appropriate angst to come along, sort through the accumulation of goof-ups, and assemble them into an enlightening work. It would have been particularly cool, we thought, had a doctor chosen to shine a penlight into the curious recesses of his or her own profession. An elucidation of physician faux pas was decades overdue. So we tended to our daily chores and disease care, and we waited. We responded to 20,106 emergency calls, and we waited some more. And you know what? It just didn't happen. And so we began to wonder, who else might do a project such as this justice, if not doctors? Well, nurses certainly could. Nobody on the planet holds a more accurate view of inner sanctum lunacy than do these talented professionals. It is nurses, after all, who are insulted and assaulted, spat upon, pushed aside, denigrated, groped, and more, all on a daily basis. So much so that within the sequestered halls of medicine, a shameful phrase now echoes off the walls. It's called disruptive physician. That's behavior that involves a wide range of childlike deportment, kind of like the sixth grader who tends to get mean, throw things around the classroom, fails to play well with others. Picture a sixth grader in a lab coat. You'll be close. Yet nurses opt to protect their livelihoods, and they have always chosen to remain relatively silent on the absurdities that they know so well. So the ongoing circus of physician screw-ups, poop, and boo-boos rolls merrily along every day, preposterously under-reported. And we've always wondered why. Why no exasperated pharmacist, for example, with a prescription-scribbled migraine had yet taken up a pen? Why no maddened physical therapist, OR tech, phlebotomist, administrator, x-ray pro, perfusionist, nor orderly has ever raged, for God's sakes, enough, and cleared the air? You've heard of going postal. How about somebody going medical? Just once. There exist entire armies of healthcare experts now with spooky tales to hoist your hackles. But you would scarcely guess it by watching the network news. So after 30 years, it finally dawned. The torch was ours to carry. A paramedic would just have to do it. We, the ruffians in blue, those rogues of rescue, the characters of advanced medicine who run around outside, faces awash in the fresh air of sanity. It does in the end make perfect sense. Who else arrives on the crash scenes time after time to find bewildered doctor bystanders with literally no clue what to do? Who else, by virtue of the nifty 24-hour shifts, is likely to be around at all, to witness bonehead moves by doctors at any time of any day? And so it came to pass, from our unparalleled perspective, these 3 points. Many of the finest people in our country can be found wearing lab coats, and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude. But many of their wackiest peers graduated from the very same medical schools. And some of the most confounding characters in society scribe MD after their names. And we thought you might want to know a little more about them. Now, oftentimes you'll notice the pronoun he when we reference a physician, and from that you might suspect that we are way too quick to excoriate only the males of the profession. Not true. Our research has encompassed 2,506 medical facilities in 41 states. Every attempt to uncover female physician gaffes has been made. Nothing would please us more than to include an entire litany of lady doctor screw-ups every day. Sadly, we just can't seem to find very many. Dang it. Doctors are supposed to be reasonably bright. We know this because they tell us so. They comprehend all those strange words. They can rattle off words like tetrahydrohydroxyphenylamino propionate osteocarnosanguineo viscercartilaginous medullary. Wow, we're only a paramedic. We can never talk like that. But the fallacy is our goofy notion that doctors are inherently smarter than the patients, who stand there with their pants around the ankles. Now, at that particular moment, when your pants are around your ankles, the doctors certainly look smarter. But the fact happens to be the doctors are not necessarily smarter than their patients, and pants don't always trump non-pants. As nearly as we can determine, the IQ of the typical doctor falls within the range of 112 to 126. And while these numbers are nothing to sniff at, you'll find truck drivers and teachers and puppeteers and talk show hosts and editors and painters and shoplifters and police dispatchers who fall into this very same span of smartness. It is illogical to presuppose that your private MD is brainier than the kid behind the counter at Poco Taco. The actual truth supports the contrary. While those of brilliant mind often gravitate towards medicine as a career, thank heaven, millions of other folks, citizens of equal or even superior intellect, find themselves filling every other niche in society for reasons we'll never know. Time for another medical secret. Are you ready? You and your MD likely fall within a few paltry aptitude digits of each other. It is highly unlikely your doctor is considerably smarter than you are. Now, we all know how much fun it is to watch morons act, well, moronic. Dick Clark Productions has raked in untold millions thanks to its Family Hour bloopers programs. On primetime television, we could, for the first time, watch and laugh. And indeed, we reckon observing societal nonsense to be good, clean fun. But our take on the matter is that it's not merely entertaining. It is eminently prudent to keep an eye out for the assumed smart ones around us whose boners can cause us pain. So our definition of dumb is uncomplicated. If through your own folly, your own inflated sense of self-greed, you tend to injure the undeserving, if you're a workplace bully throwing stethoscopes, if you embarrass your mother, if you bring shame onto an honorable profession, if your posturing causes Hippocrates to roll over in his grave, if you are so unimaginably lame after achieving a medical school diploma that you get tossed into prison for being stupid, then you are indeed dumb. And if you have somehow managed to make it onto this show, or in any of our books, then you are without serious question one of America's dumbest doctors. And we believe the citizenry has every right to know exactly who in the hell you are. No professional in America errs more unashamedly, creates more loss of health and treasure and lives, nor escapes more appropriate discipline than the errant physician population. And laughing a little bit seems to ease the grinding of our teeth as we study the messes you guys make. Here's another point. Our review deliberately sets aside the subject of surgical team errors. Surgical mistakes, usually, are best examined under a different light. In the course of our research, we find hundreds of inescapably dumb incidents happening in the operating rooms, but there is no design here to criticize the fine efforts of highly qualified teams who are, in the end, performing to levels of near perfection that most of us will never attain. So we'll say this again because it does bear repeating. There is very little idiocy in the OR, or in most of the alphabet soup rooms, actually. Finally, a note to you doctors out there, astute enough to swallow these bitter pills of reality. Our valid argument is written by the process of logical forethought. Our criticism puts forward a point of view that is grounded. It has evidence to support it, and you'll find evidence in abundance. And while we utilize the function of humor to take the edge off the ugliness, our core findings are no laughing matter. If, dear and glorious physician, you are not the least bit dumb, then by all means we applaud the dignity you bring to society's table. Humanity needs you. This author has personally had the pleasure of working with hundreds of you, and we thank you for the experience. We suggest you pour a drink, put your feet up, have a good time, break out the pretzels. Think about all the stuffed shirts with stethoscopes that you've personally had to endure, along with the rest of us. Think about the thugs and scrubs you've been tempted to poke in the eye. Then go forth and multiply. The gene pool welcomes you. But believe this, you're about to meet a few thousand nutcases within your very own peer group who would do us all a favor by not procreating at all. Now it's time for a short break. When we come back, we're going to escort you further down the tunnel of the Twilight Zone, where the common theme is doctors being brats and not playing well with others. You're listening to us on the Inland Empire's Kcaa Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Don't leave yet. We're just getting to the good stuff.
What have I learned so far? Well, I've learned there's no one right path for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I could only do so much. My options were limited, very limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that has a flexible schedule so I can keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found a new career with training opportunities that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I could change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
Hey, buddy, I heard the drought's moving in, muscling in on your turf. To make matters worse, the man keeps telling you to limit your spigot. That drought is bad news, no fooling. But me and my boys can help. The Water Boys, on the Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6. We'll help you protect your turf and save water. And hey, don't worry about it. Consider it a gift.
Yeah, Louie, you heard the boss. We gotta listen in at 6 p.m. on Thursday nights.
Okay, Vinny, you got it. The Water Zone, Thursday nights at 6 p.m. I'll tell our lawn it's now protected.
The Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
Welcome back. It's 4:32 p.m. in the Inland Empire. You're listening to the Paramedic Heretic on KCAA Radio. As you may know, our show is divided into segments, of which we have a total of 12 general categories. Each week, we reveal cases in 4 of the 12 categories. Here's a jaw-dropping subject. We call it heads on a stick because, that's where some doctors' heads belong, on the end of a sharp stick. Last week, we briefly discussed the case of Dr. Shu Ying Lisa Sang, a Southern California physician. Yesterday, Friday, an L.A. Superior Court judge sentenced the Rowland Heights doctor to 30 years in state prison for the murders of 3 of her patients who fatally overdosed. This ended a landmark case that some medical experts say could change how doctors nationwide handle prescriptions. Well, gee, you think that might be a good idea? Prescription drugs are killing 18,000 Americans a year. You think maybe doctors ought to rethink their drug-pushing habits? What an outrageous comment. And maybe, to leverage some critical thinking, how about a court-ordered mandate? How about we force doctors to attend 300 funerals a week? You think that might get their attention? Now, this Dr. Sang's prison sentence came after a Los Angeles jury last year found her guilty of second-degree murder, the second time a physician has been convicted of murder in the U.S. for overprescribing drugs. Superior Court Judge George G. Lamelli said that Sang tried to blame her patients, tried to blame the pharmacists, even tried to blame other doctors, but she would not take responsibility for her own actions. The 8-week trial included 77 witnesses, many of them were her own staff, and more than 250 pieces of evidence. Sang, who wore a blue jail jumpsuit, apologized to the victims' families and to her own family. Age 46, Dr. Sang, a general practitioner, is among a growing number of doctors being charged with murder for overprescribing narcotics that end up killing people. Some so-called experts say they fear Dr. Sang's conviction will usher in a new reality, a reality where doctors, afraid of prosecution, will be hesitant to prescribe painkillers to patients who really need them. They say the trial has already had a deterrent effect on other doctors and has captured the medical community's attention. We say, what a bunch of lab coat whiners. Instead of complaining, what they ought to be doing is listening to their brighter colleagues, like Dr. Peter States. Peter States is president of the American Society of Interventional Pain Physicians, and he says this: when you use the word murder, Of course, it's going to have a chilling effect. But any doctor who is prescribing pills knowing what she knew shouldn't be called a doctor. That's not the practice of medicine. Now, States says he believes an aggressive medical board, and not prosecutors, should be going after reckless doctors. Aggressive medical board? Sorry, Doc. That's a contradiction in terms. There is simply no such animal, not in this country. Dr. Francis Rigel, pain specialist who works in Palmdale, says he followed Sang's trial too, and has talked with fellow doctors across the nation about the case. We all agreed, he said. If you're doing the right thing, if you simply do your job, you don't need to worry about being prosecuted for murder. Our point exactly. During Sang's trial, for example, Deputy District Attorney John Niederman told jurors that there were, quote, red flags in her prescription habits. More than a dozen times, the prosecutor said, a coroner or a law enforcement officer called her with the same dark news. Your patient has died of a drug overdose. Niederman said her prescription habits remained absolutely unchanged. She went right on drugging the druggies. And why not? Their habits made them her own personal walking ATM machine. The prosecutor told jurors that Sang would even falsify prescription names so some people could get twice as many pills. Her staff testified she openly referred to her patients as druggies and routinely faked medical records. Her motivation, Niederman said, was money. Between 2007 and 2010, when Sang joined the Roland Heights clinic where her husband worked, and incidentally her husband has managed to step into his own legal deep doo-doo, her office brought in $5 million in 3 years. This Dr. Sang was convicted of murder in the deaths of Vu Nguyen, age 28, of Lake Forest, Stephen Ogle, age 25, of Palm Desert, Joey Rivero, age 21, Arizona State University. The ugly fact is, although this woman was merely found guilty of 3 murders, investigators discovered that at least a dozen other patients died too. She was charged with 3 because there were other factors involved in many of the deaths, such as drugs that were also being prescribed by other doctors, and one that was possibly a suicide. Prosecutors named 3 other Orange County men who also died under her care: Matthew Stavron, age 24, Nathan Kenny, 34, Ryan Latham, 21. In the meantime, civil lawsuits have been filed by the victims' families against Sang for the deaths of Ryan Winter, age 20, of Aliso Viejo, and Riley Russo, also 20, of Laguna Niguel. Sang has already paid $275,000 to Ribero's parents, $225,000 for yet another death, that of Nicholas Mata, age 22, of Huntington Beach. The jury also found Sang guilty of more than a dozen other criminal charges. This woman's murder conviction is rare for a doctor. In our opinion, it should not be rare. In a saner society, it would be a weekly event. That is, until drug-dealing MDs start getting the hint and knock off some of the garbage-level street-dealing scat that's going on. Prosecutors told the court this wayward physician prescribed hardcore narcotics to people with no medical need, that she repeatedly ignored signs that they were overdosing, even when they were warned numerous times. Her patients were showing up at emergency rooms all over town, not breathing, from doses of drugs she herself prescribed. Sang's attorney, Tracy Green, argued to the court that the doctor had been, quote, naive to prescribe so many medications. Right. 10 years of advanced training, a dozen years of treating thousands of people, and her problem is being gullible. Here's a newsflash for Miss Green, attorney at law. Talking like an idiot does nothing to elevate your reputation as a legal, so stop it. Your client's problem was greed. Take a look in the mirror, mouth the words. The doctor was greedy. Go ahead. Honestly helps you sleep better. Unfortunately, this physician, as indeed many thousands of other physicians, either forget or they ignore the most basic tenet of medicine, primum non nocere. That simple Latin phrase has been around a long, long time. Non-malfeasance is the bedrock bioethics that all healthcare students are taught in school. Ask any nursing student. It is a fundamental principle, and roughly translated, it means this: If you don't know what the hell you're doing, at least don't kill the patient. Doesn't that sound like something that, we don't know, a Cub Scout might figure out? Now time for a final break. When we come back, we'll escort you a bit further into the Twilight Zone, where the common theme is healthcare politics gone Looney Tunes. In the meantime, you're listening to us on the Inland Empire's Kcaa Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Don't leave yet. We're just getting to a paramedic's personal experience.
If you're trying to prevent home foreclosure, you need a law firm with extensive experience representing clients in protecting their homes from foreclosure. The Goodman Law Firm is a nationwide team of mortgage mitigation attorneys that provides legal advice and expertise you can trust. Our nationwide network includes local of-counsel foreclosure attorneys to represent you during the mortgage mitigation process. The Goodman firm has represented homeowners across the nation in resolving their troubled mortgages. We have the experience and the knowledge you can count on to best represent your interests. The banks have attorneys fighting to protect their interests, and so should you. Call the Goodman Law Firm at 888-800-6030. Take control of your mortgage situation today. Contact us at 888-800-6030 or through our website at arnoldgoodmanlaw.com. Is something driving you crazy? Is someone driving you crazy? There's no one to listen to you? Sure there is. KCAA 1050 is here for you. When something's bugging you, call and rant at 909-353-1050. We know how it feels when you hold back those thoughts, and it's not healthy to keep them inside. You need to get it out. So rant. Call us and you can rant about anything from your husband not putting down the toilet seat to the cost of food at the grocery store to local laws and regulations getting in your way. How about the road work on the freeways? Trying to stay in between those white lines? But which white lines? It's so hard to tell. It's enough to drive you crazy. Oh, but that's my rant. We want to hear from you, and you need someone to listen, so it's your chance. Rant, 909-353-1050. Leave us your rant, and we'll either play it back or we'll read it on the air if you don't want your voice on the radio. But whatever you do, don't hold on to those suppressed thoughts. Rant, rant, rant. Call 909-353-1050 and leave us your rant at the station that leaves no listener behind. KCAA 1050.
Miss something today, yesterday, last week? Check out our podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. We leave no listener behind.
Welcome back. It's 44 minutes after the hour, and you're listening to the final segment of the Paramedic Heretic on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And on this program, we leave no patient behind. All you have to do is tune in, listen up, walk away a little smarter than you were before the show. We'll tell you everything we know. Here's a personal experience. It was a day that broke the heart of a city. I had not planned on visiting an airplane crash on my birthday, but that's the way this job treats you. You think the biggest part of your afternoon will involve a chocolate cake, and then an airliner comes screaming down out of the clouds into a neighborhood nearby. For a medic, watching the action unfold on television isn't really an option, even on your day off. So within 8 minutes after it happened, by 9:10 in the morning, I was there, walking slowly towards a wall of flames of the worst airline disaster, up till then, in U.S. history. PSA Flight 182 had collided mid-air with a tiny Cessna training plane a half a mile above the city of San Diego. and 17 seconds after the two planes struck each other, the monstrous Boeing 727 exploded into a quiet residential nook, splattering wreckage throughout 4 city blocks of the neighborhood we called North Park. The impact was literally earth-shaking. It was powerful enough to register several ticks on the Richter earthquake scale, and it took the thunderball all of 3 seconds to incinerate 22 houses and a dozen cars, as well as trees, front porches, power lines, telephone poles, and a playful little pit bull lounging on somebody's lawn. The human toll was unspeakable. 128 passengers, 7 flight crew, 7 more folks and homes and cars on the ground. 2 pilots in the Cessna lay dead on a city street not far away. The carnage was, as the National Transportation Safety Board would determine, the ugly result of 3 tiny human errors that occurred within a frighteningly brief period of time. Sometimes that's all it takes. A year later, the NTSB report would say this: the causes of the crash were threefold. First, the PSA flight crew did not advise the control tower that they had lost sight of the small plane after initially telling them that they had the Cessna in sight. 2, the pilots of the Cessna failed to maintain their assigned heading as instructed by the tower. And third, the ATC controller failed to advise the airliner that the Cessna had veered toward its glide path, even though his warning alert had sounded, telling him the planes were on a collision course. And so it all came to this, and a quiet California neighborhood now resembled your worst vision of Ground Zero. At the eastern edge of the impact point, I recognized a familiar San Diego police officer, Sergeant Charles Mattingly, with his arms outstretched, waving off an ever-growing crowd of onlookers. Other cops to his left and right were stringing yellow yards of police tape around the entire area. When he saw me, he turned and pointed down the street in the direction of the command post. It was not visible through the smoke and the fire, so I walked a wide circle around what was left of incinerated backyards to get to it. The fences were demolished, and that made the trek easier. Just down the street, south of the incident command center, a bright orange Coast Guard helicopter sat right in the middle of the street, a sight which underscored the already dream world atmosphere. 7 Hearts and ambulances were assembled, along with a half-dozen Navy units. Nearly all of them would go home unused. After a quick briefing, I joined the Navy corpsmen, and for the next 2 hours we went door to door to every house that was not of flames, looking for injured and calming residents. San Diego firefighters were everywhere, connecting lines to fire hydrants, breaking down doors in search of survivors. They lifted large sheets of aircraft skin to see what might be underneath. We stayed out of their way as we escorted dozens of crying residents out of the area to gather at a local high school until the fires were out and the broken power lines were shut down. I recall how we were all in disbelief that day. Fewer than a dozen people on the ground were hurt or killed, even as hundreds walked in and out of the debris field in a daze. A saving grace was that North Park was a working-class neighborhood. Most of the residents were, at 9 in the morning, already on the job or in school. I circled the tail section of the big plane, known in flight conversation as the empennage. It towered above smoldering litter in the street, as if in defiance, as if to say that at least it was too powerful to die. A single jet engine cowling lay in a heap not far away, its PSA lettering clearly visible. Well-known TV 39 news reporter John Britton was already there, standing with his back to large flames, speaking into a microphone over the noise. His cameraman battled the heat in his face and kept right on filming. The stink of aviation fuel in the air was heavy enough to gag us all into submission. San Diego Police Academy had brought in a group of cadets to assist in tagging body parts, and they moved through the debris field quite slowly, bending and numbering. Some of them, today would be their first and their last day of law enforcement. They would leave the program and never come back. But at the moment they were tagging the cremated remains of a man and a woman who had been killed instantly in their Audi. Their crime? They had been driving down the street when an airliner exploded behind them. The cadets tagged the upper body of a blonde woman on a sidewalk, mid-40s maybe. All but her head and shoulders were gone, With her mouth and eyes wide open, her face was frozen in permanent, torturous fear, and I found it almost impossible to tear my gaze away from the sheer repugnance of what was left of her. And all the while, at each end of the street, TV reporters were gathering to shout our experience all over the world. One of my strongest memories is how we all kept our eyes glued to the ground as we walked. Streets and yards were littered with what is traditionally considered evidence, and every single piece of wreckage would be collected. But it was almost impossible to avoid stepping on human flesh. The poor men, women, and kids aboard this jet had been instantly reduced to countless charred fingers and toes, arms and legs. There were splashes of pink tissue and chunks of smoldering torsos everywhere we looked. The firefighters were absolutely appalled. They had no choice but to drive their vehicles right over the top of human remains to get to the fire hydrants. I recall no more than 5 complete bodies throughout the neighborhood, and only the blonde woman's undamaged face. The San Diego Medical Examiner would collect 10,306 body parts. Hundreds were on rooftops. Thousands were so small they could fit into a kitchen spoon. In the absence of DNA tracing at that time, all would be buried in a mass grave. The horror of the moment was underscored, as it so often is, by random things. I saw a lower leg with a gold ankle bracelet. I saw a smudged photo of a couple with their daughter. I saw a Mission Beach vacation brochure. We found a pair of glasses with absolutely no damage whatsoever. But of all the detail etched into the permanent, never-ending memory loop labeled PSA Flight 182 in my head, all these years later, the remnants of the bright pink flight attendant's blouse hanging from a scorched tree branch, swaying in the wind, truly hurts my heart. Here's a few points worth mentioning. There must have been close to 1,000 people in and around the crash scene that day. Law enforcement, of course, firefighters, Coast Guard, media, bystanders, residents, Navy corpsmen, EMTs from Hartson and Schaefer Ambulance. Nurses and doctors from surrounding hospitals had responded. Public utility workers were shutting down power lines. But there was one particular group of professionals not there. San Diego City paramedics. Not a single one. The greatest disaster in the city's history? Absolutely. San Diego City paramedics on scene? Nope. Why not? Unapologetic physician codswallop. You see, the proximate cause for obstacles to progress and rescue has rarely originated with rescuers themselves. The primary barriers to advancement in EMS are cultural. They lay in physician groupthink and their outsized sense of importance. It is little more than hyperinflated lab coat ego. The self-celebration of physicianhood is a jaw-dropping thing to behold, translated in an almost laughable knee-jerk zeal of being the final say in all things medical. You see, in San Diego, a handful of doctors held covert leverage over the city council, and they were blocking efforts to establish an advanced EMS team. They stood firm with the same fatuous zealotry that enabled MDs in previous eras to keep the microscope, for example, from being accepted in the medical sciences for 150 years. The microscope, you might know, like hand washing and anesthetic surgery, was seen as an insult to the medical profession. And now, in a nearly inevitable modern-day mimicry, the last thing many physicians cared to see was a barely controllable new species in their midst. These rescue rowdies coming out of schools, if one can believe the TV news, had the infuriating habit of trampling upon turf called doctor. Unlike nurses, they had the nerve to stand their ground and sometimes even argue a point of contention. Can you imagine? What were they calling these people? Paramedics? They would be running around outside, totally unsupervised, and worst of all, in some quarters they were being called, Lord help us all, lifesavers. Not even in their nightmares would San Diego's key medical political players support such nonsense, so they fought it as long as they could. We will not go so far as to say these politically motivated, egotistical physicians lied directly to the San Diego City Council for 10 years. Rather, in the words of Winston Churchill, we submit they were repeated perpetrators of terminological inexactitudes. Excuse me. Incidentally, on the night of the PSA flight, the night it went down, San Diego City Council went into a series of executive emergency sessions, and when they were finished, they told the doctor consultants to go to hell. They voted unanimously to fast-track the city's first-ever advanced EMS paramedic teams. And the host of this radio program was appointed the city's first EMS supervisor. So you heard it first, here, and now you know. As always, we thank you for joining us today. We'll be back again next Saturday at 4 for more eye-opening medical revelations. If you happen to have a professional and ethical caregiver, we encourage you to send them food. Send them cash and cards at Christmas. Hang on to them, because there are so many of the other kind. If you're interested in lab coat lunacy, and you certainly should be, we invite you to visit our website, medicalmiscreants.com. You can contact us too if you like at Patrick Paramedic, Patrick, P-A-T-R-I-C, no K, patrickparamedic@yahoo.com. If you care to opine, you want to send us a story of your own, we'll read your notes to us on the air. Program is based here on the website, Medical Miscreants, as well as our books, Paramedic Heretic, America's Dumbest Doctors, and these can be ordered online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Inside these books, we list thousands of stories. You've been listening to the Paramedic Heretic, exclusively heard on California's Kcaa Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and worldwide on the Kcaa podcast. Until next time, be safe. Bye for now.
This is for all the lonely people, thinking that life has passed them by. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup and ride that highway in the sky. This is for all the single people, thinking that love has left them dry. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup. You never know until you try. Well, I'm on my way. Yes, I'm back to stay. Well, I'm on my way back home. Get it? This is for all the lonely people, thinking that life has passed them by. Don't give up until you drink from the silver cup. I'll never take you down or never give you up. You'll never know until you try.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Welcome to My Awesome Empire. This week, we're meeting 3 incredible San Bernardino writers. Julie Pagel is one. She's a respected scientist, mathematician, college professor, mom, and recently was